All right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. My name is Jess Brooks. I work with the Nevada Department of Wildlife. I am the Wildlife Education Coordinator for the Southern region of Nevada. I also have with me a wonderful volunteer. His name is Logan Kloneke. He'll be helping with some of the slides this evening. He is also a professional, so he'll be speaking specifically on some of the species we'll be chatting about later. So welcome, Logan. And I also want to say a quick thank you to our moderator this evening, Amanda. Now you won't be able to see her or hear her, but she will be in the background. She will be answering some of your questions live. Hello, and she says hello in the chat as well. So while we roll into things for this evening, feel free to test out that chat. I have seen a lot of you have already done that by letting us know your favorite waterfowl or where you're tuning in from this evening. I saw one person from Florida and one person from Canada, so welcome. And while you're in the chat, please also make sure that your settings say to all panelists and attendees. That way I get to see your chats, and Logan and Amanda and all of us who are participating this evening. So I just want to say thank you. Oh, hi, Darla from Las Vegas. I just want to say thank you again for joining us for a conservation education program. This is part of our birding series. Hi, Karen from Reno. This is a family program and is rated PG. Profanity or inappropriate behavior won't be tolerated. We have the ability to kick people out, although we don't want to do that. We want this to be all involved and available to everyone. So if you are going to participate in the chat or ask questions in the Q&A box, please make sure they are appropriate and on topic. If they're not, we will have to kick you out, but we don't want to do that. Tonight's presentation is being recorded, so you will get to see our lovely faces anytime you want if you wanted to tune into YouTube a few weeks-ish after tonight's session is completed. And it will be up there probably forever. So tonight, like I said, is part of our birding series. Tonight's presentation is specifically on waterfowl identification. Like I said, my name is Jess Brooks. I am the Wildlife Education Coordinator here in the South. And then I have Logan Kloneke, who is an awesome professional. I'm so grateful to be working with him for tonight's presentation. He is up in the Western region near Reno. Hi from Texas. I see you in the chat. Hello and welcome. And one other thing too, a really fun and easy and active way that everyone can participate with us, have that fluid and ongoing open conversation is as we're going through all these different species, what we'll show you on the screen is the species itself. We'll describe them to you, but we won't tell you exactly what they are. Hopefully, some of these will be familiar to some of you. So while we're describing, while we're showing you some of these neat pictures, feel free to type in what you think this waterfowl is. And then after we are finished describing it to everybody, we'll let you know what species it actually is. So we're going to be testing your knowledge throughout the presentation, and Logan and I will mention that throughout. And another quick thank you to our moderators, Amanda. She'll be answering questions live in the Q&A box. I will ask that if you do have questions to stick them in the Q&A box. Do not stick them in the chat. Logan and I will be watching the chat throughout the presentation tonight, but we won't be able to answer your questions. Amanda will be doing that live. Alrighty, so welcome. So tonight we're going to be talking about a lot of different things. Very firstly, we're going to be talking about flyways and migration, as this will help some of our newer birders where to look, why flyways are important, what migration even means for some of our waterfowl, some identification key features, and those will include resources for identification, and we have quite a few to share with you. And then we'll jump into the actual bird ID. We're going to be chatting about ducks, and that means dabbling ducks or puddle ducks, and diving ducks. We'll also be talking about geese and some other, those other species are whistling ducks, sandhill cranes, and swans, and those will be near the very end. For those of you who are kind of testing your knowledge about which species we're showing you, this is this species on the screen here. We're not going to be describing the species just yet, but we will be showcasing it later on. So this is a quick sneak peek picture. I'm not going to tell you what it is just yet. All right, so let's get started. So migration flyways. I do see some answers coming through in the chat for that species. Hold tight for that one. I won't tell you what it is yet. So migration flyways are where birds are traveling. So here is a very simplified version of North America, Canada, the United States, including Mexico. And there are 4 flyways, and the way that they're divvied up is by color. We are in the Pacific flyway, and that yellow star in the middle of all that purple there, that's where Nevada is. A lot of the species that we'll be covering this evening will focus on Nevada species. That doesn't mean that you won't have these species anywhere else within North America. All it means is that we'll be focusing on Nevada species. The other 3 migration flyways include the Central Flyway, the Mississippi Flyway, and the Atlantic Flyway. The Pacific Flyway, though, is pretty special. It stretches 4,000 miles north to south, 1,000 miles east to west. The Arctic to the west coast of Mexico and the Rocky Mountains to the Pacific Ocean. And this flyway, the Pacific Flyway, is the most varied in terms of the number of species of waterfowl that travel along this flyway. This is a closer up version of the United States portion of the Pacific Flyway. And all these little red dots that you see are stopover sites. So Nevada, let me turn on my laser pointer here. So Nevada is right here. I am in the southern region, so I'm way down here. It's pretty warm here. And then Logan and Amanda are up here near Reno. But you'll notice that compared to other states, Nevada doesn't really have a lot of red dots. We don't really have a lot of stopover sites. Those stopover sites are so important to the migration when animals are flying or traveling along those pathways. Not only birds. So those stopover sites are crucial, especially to migrating birds. Each of these sites, those little red dots, serve as a small oasis in a desert landscape. Just to give you a little bit better of an idea of what's going on here, you'll see here in California, this is the Central Valley. And there's a lot of green, fertile, lush plains that are right here in the central part of California. Nevada, however, is a basin and range state. So we have a lot of high mountain ranges that stretch long distances. And we also have a lot of canyons, a lot of slopes, a lot of basin and ranges. And there really isn't a one designated spot in the state where we have this lush area of available water year round or anything like that, apart from lakes and streams and such. But in a basin and range state, we don't have a lot of stopover sites. All that means is the stopover sites that we do have are that much more crucial. And these stopover sites are great birding areas. You know, if you're new to birding, if you're just getting into this sort of thing, especially for waterfowl, check out where some lakes, parks, rivers, and streams might be in your local area. Go there first, because that's probably where you'll find a lot of waterfowl. So as far as migration and range maps, I have this slide up for a very particular reason. For those of us who are new to birding or we're learning how to read a range map, this picture was taken specifically from a guidebook. Guidebooks are so important, they're so useful. I've been a birder for a number of years and I still use my guidebook almost every time I go out. This is what they look like. This is a pretty standard migration and range map. You'll have 3 to 4 colors. It helps you identify or help distinguish different species. For example, if you're in Nevada and you're in the southern part of Nevada where I'm at, and you're not really sure what you're looking at, what species you might be looking at, you can check out the range map in the guidebook for that species. And it might show you, well, I won't be finding this species here this time of year, or it's here all year round. This might help you distinguish all the different species. So the 4 colors in this instance for this range map are red, yellow, blue, and purple. Red is for breeding. Yellow is for migration, which typically here in Nevada is around the winter time. Blue is specifically for winter, and this might mean they're stopping off, they're hanging out for a longer period of time, or it's not necessarily part of the migration pattern. And then purple, of course, is found year round. Birds migrate to move from areas of low or decreasing resources to areas of high or increasing resources. Let me move my laser pointer out of the way. Knowing where birds will be will help you with identification, and that's why these range maps are super useful. So I have a question for those of us who are in the chat. What are the primary resources that birds are looking for? So let's say you're a bird, you have your family, maybe it's just you, and it's come wintertime, you're running low on resources. What might make you get up and leave? What might make you leave to find more resources? What might those resources be? Okay, I see, oh my goodness, shelter and fuel, follow the food, I like that. Food and water, food, yep, all that. Pick your pros. So the first is food and water. Obviously, you need food and you need water to survive. The second is nesting opportunities, because a lot of birds will winter or overwinter in a particular area. They're building nests to make sure that they have a particular or specific place to bed down. So having those nesting opportunities is also super important. Some birds won't build a nest. Some might take over an already built nest. Some might just scratch around in the dirt a little bit and call it good. Some might nest in homes or in the reeds. So it just sort of depends on the species, but having those nesting opportunities is extremely important. All right, so let's talk about some key identification features that we will be looking for. There's 4 of them. So tonight anyway, we'll be looking at the head and bill shape and color. We'll be looking at color markings on the head in particular. We'll be looking at body feather markings and colors. This is also called plumage, the color of the feathers. And we'll also be looking at very specific wing markings. And we have some photos later that we'll also show you. So to identify waterfowl and upland game birds, these 4 things are key for features to look for. If you're new to birding, this is a great webinar for you to tune in for, because we're going to be showing you a lot of the common species and what sort of sets them apart from the other species that we've got. This is a great picture example of what you might be seeing depending on where you go and what you're looking at. You might be seeing a picture like this and you might be saying to yourself, oh my gosh, those are ducks. Well, most of the time you're correct. But the species, telling the difference between the species is also very important. And this might be a great picture to help you tell different species apart. So tonight we're going to be using these identification features, those 4 that I mentioned, and the resources that we'll be showing you this evening. ID is so important, especially for hunters. Hunters can contribute to their own sport by not firing at species that are either protected or scarce. So being able to identify if you're a hunter is so important. Also, of course, following the law and following daily limits, especially for hens or females. Certain species can also be considered common for an area and may continue a migration path at certain times of the year. And that will be looking at your range maps and things like that. Also, if you kind of know the habitat or what the birds are looking for, remember we talked about those nesting opportunities, that can also help you in identifying what species you're looking at. That might also include, you know, what the animal's eating, looking at tracks, things like that. So you'll be looking for differences in size, shape, plumage patterns, that's the feather coloration patterns, wing beat. We won't be going too much into this in particular, but there is some cool information out there on it. Flocking patterns, foraging behavior, takeoff and landing technique, calls. We won't be really going into calls this evening that much, but there are some really cool things out there. Silhouettes are important too, like the general shape of the animal. You know, and different species usually tend to use different habitats. So we talked about habitats as well. Oh, we did talk about hunter courtesy. I'm sorry, I was jumping ahead of myself. And what to look for, my bad. All right, so really quick before I let Logan take over here in a moment, here are some really cool resources for everyone who is going to be out birding, if you're a hunter or not. These resources are incredible. This resource is by Nevada Department of Wildlife. It's available in hard copy and online. It is the Nevada Small Game Hunting Guide for 2020 and 2021. It's a quick PDF that you can look at. It has really great pictures, key identifications, really easy, fun stuff to look at. This is a method that I really enjoy and I'm just really fascinated by. It's the LeMaster method or Lee Master method, depending on where you're from. I have heard it pronounced both ways. It's a little book. It's about this big. And it specifically looks at identifying the beak and how that can be used to identify. This other one is called Ducks at a Distance. It's free, it's downloadable online. It's from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. This waterfowl identification guide is very cool, has a lot of really useful information as far as silhouettes go, looking at size, emphasizing wing beat patterns, flocking behavior, foraging behavior, things like that. And then this is the part that Ducks at a Distance does focus on that we will talk a little bit about here in a little bit. So what you're looking at, the picture that just popped up here, is the hen wing and the drake wing. And the differences in color and plumage really can set the individuals apart. We will speak a little bit more about this in particular later on in the evening, but Ducks at a Distance does focus on that in particular. And then here's another resource. It's an app, Ducks Unlimited. I use it all the time. It's a wonderful, wonderful resource. The things that I really love most about this resource in particular is it's an app, it's on your phone. You don't necessarily have to have service for it to work. Having service is better, obviously, but the pictures and description alone are wonderful. You also see that it does have some range maps here with some different coloring that I showed you earlier. Some calls are available to play so you can compare what you're hearing versus what the app has. It talks about the population, diet, and migration patterns. So while you're identifying, you can also take a few extra minutes and read a little bit about the species and what this app has to say about it. So definitely check it out if you can. All right, so as far as bird ID goes, we are going to be talking about ducks tonight. That's one of the first things. We're going to be talking about dabbling ducks, also called puddle ducks, and diving ducks, and what those differences are. And then after that, we'll be talking a little bit about geese. And then we have this other category. And this other category includes whistling ducks and sandhill cranes and also swans. So let's dive in. Let's talk about some dabbling ducks or puddle ducks first. Hopefully you all see that this is a nice behind in the background. This is one of the key features of a dabbling duck or puddle duck. So dabbling ducks usually are inhabiting fresh, shallow marshes and rivers. They feed by tipping their head down in the water and letting their rump keep them afloat and keep them sort of situated in place. Their diet is mostly vegetable and seed based. They have, or most species have iridescent wing patches during breeding. However, by summer, the wings are not as bright and vibrant, especially in the hens or the females. Usually they have larger wings in proportion to their bodies. Sometimes that's hard to tell unless they're flying. They're very sure-footed and can walk and run very well on the land, so they don't waddle as much as the other ducks. They have an unlobed hind toe that's back here when they walk in the back. And they take off by bursting into the air all at once. Some other ducks will sort of run and then take off, but dabbling ducks take off by just all of a sudden bursting into the air. As we go through dabbling and puddle ducks, you'll also see this symbol here just to remind you which category we're talking about, this little duck in a puddle. Hopefully it will help you sort of keep reminded. All right, so diving ducks are a little bit of the opposite. They inhabit larger, deeper lakes and bays. They feed by tipping head first and then diving down, and they use their back feet as a rudder. Usually they'll feed by being fully submerged, and they can hold their breath for a long period of time, but they can't breathe underwater, obviously, so they do have to come back up for air. Their diet is mostly fish, shellfish, mollusks, some aquatic plants, but not really seeds like our puddle ducks or dabbling ducks. They have smaller wings in proportion to their bodies and really fast, rapid wing beats. Sometimes that can be hard to tell unless you see them in flight. They have huge paddle feet, which I sort of mentioned, helps them steer and paddle, sort of get around while underwater. They're wonderful swimmers. They have a lobed hind toe. So this hind toe back here when they walk is sort of lobed, it's sort of connected all at one. And they take off by sort of pattering their feet on top of the water and gradually becoming airborne. So they kind of walk on water a little bit before taking off instead of just bursting into the air all of a sudden. And then here's this symbol that will be representing the diving ducks. And you'll see this up in the corner before, or it will help you be reminded of which category we're talking about. And here are some of the common species between puddle ducks and diving ducks. And again, here's that symbol that I mentioned that you can find. Now, we won't cover all of these species, but we will cover a good deal of them. All right, so I will hand it off to Logan here. I'm going to mute myself. Hey there, Logan. I'm going to jump into the next slide and you can take it from here.
Sounds good. So for this portion, I'll be giving a quick description of the drake and hen duck, and then when I'm done with the description, I ask you guys to type into the chat what you think the duck is. And we have a few different ducks that we will be doing this. So for this duck, the drake has a yellow bill, green head, a white ring on its neck, blue and white speculum, white underwing, and the famous curl in its tail. Then the hens have the orange bill with black freckles and the blue and white speculum with white underwings. What do you think this one is? See it in the chat already. It's mallard. That is correct. Everybody's getting that one right. Nice job. So this duck has a white crown patch, green eye streak, white shoulder patch, green and black speculum, short blue with black tip bill. Then the hens have the dark eye streak, small white shoulder patch, green and black speculum, and short blue and black tip bill. Get some mixed answers, not a green wing teal. There we go. There it is, the widgeon, American widgeon, exactly. Nice job. So this one, the drakes are small, compact gray ducks with brown heads, green eye band. When swimming, note the vertical patch under the near shoulder, bright green speculum, and the hens are overall brown speckled and bright green speculums on the wings. What do you guys think this one is? There we go, green wing teal, correct. So the drakes of these ones are pretty much all gray with some white on the wings and a little bit of orange and a black tail. The hens are overall gray with the orange bill with the black line and a white speculum. What do you guys think this one is? Got one gadwall. Couple more gadwalls, that's correct. Nice job. These ones have long tail feathers that come to a pin, bronze and green speculum, black, blue with gray slides. Yeah, I already see the correct answer coming in there. Nice. Hens have gray and blue bills, brown speculum, and may have a green chest, which is uncommon. You guys are nailing that one, the pintail, nice. This one, personally, my favorite duck, has large spoonbill shaped bill, blue shoulder patch. Nice, you guys are on top of it. Yellow eyes, green speculum. The hens have the large spoon-shaped bill as well, and dull and green speculums. Nice, shovelers all over, what I like to see. All right, this one, commonly called the king of the marsh, wedge-shaped head, red head and eyes, black bill, black breast with gray and black wings and a gray speculum. The hens are primarily brown, gray speculum and light brown head. Got a couple. There we go. Canvasback's coming in. That's correct. All right, this one, another cool looking duck with yellow eyes and a red head, black breast, gray stripe on the wings, light gray body with vermiculation, blue and gray bill. There, a red head coming in. Nice. The hens are pretty much all brown again, and with the blue and gray bill with the white band on the black tip. Red head's correct. Who can tell me which one is the canvasback and the red head in the picture? Give you guys a minute to type. Yeah, canvasback is in the back. Nice job. All right, hopefully this one will stump you guys a little bit. You guys are on top of it. So this duck has a black back and head, vertical white mark before the wing. Bill has a white stripe and slight outline. In flight, they're broad gray wing stripe, not white. And the hens are also brown with the brown body, light cheek patch. You guys are nailing this one too, ringnecks. Guys are too good. Let's see. All right. So the drakes of this duck has black head with a little pearlescent sheen on it, light gray in back and chest, white speculum, yellow eye, and a blue bill. The hens are overall dark, clean cut white mask near the bill and a white speculum. Let's see, it's coming in the chat here. Scalp, nice. All right, who can tell me the ring neck and the scalp on the left and right? Yeah, ring neck is on the left. All right, and then lastly, we have this duck. The drakes have tail feathers that are upright when they're swimming. In the summer, when they're in their full plume colors, when they're rusty with the red body, white cheek patch, and black cap, the hens stay the gray and brown color with the white cheek patches. Yeah, everybody's on top of that one, the ruddy duck. Nice job, guys.
Yeah, that was super impressive. I was watching the chat and a few I think stumped some folks, but for the most part, I think we're dealing with some non-beginners, which is great. Okay, so very quickly, I would like to talk a little bit about speculum color between puddle ducks and diving ducks. So the speculum in particular is this area here. It is on the it's the lower portion of the secondary feathers. Now with puddle ducks, it can absolutely help in identification when knowing the gender, age, and the species. It depends if the speculum is bright in color, drab in color. For puddle ducks in particular, you're going to be looking for greens, blues, purples, more so metallic colors, those vivid, shiny, iridescent colors. Very few will have some white, tan, or brown. Knowing that speculum color for all these different species, especially if they're in flight, that will really help you to identify some of these species. Knowing that speculum color is sort of like a fingerprint, because some speculums for a ruddy duck versus any other kind of duck, it's one to know the shape, but if you can get the speculum color and what color to look for, if there's some secondary white striping going on, or if you're looking for a metallic versus a brown, this will absolutely help you. If you're going to be looking at the speculum color for diving ducks, this too can help you in knowing the gender, age, and species. But for the most part, diving duck wing shape will be different, but also the speculum will be shorter, like the colorful portion will be shorter. And it will also be a little bit more dull in color. Typically, we're going to be looking at gray, black, or white. Once in a while you could have some tan or browns in there. For example, you could see some fading happening for the scalp, and for a ring neck, you can see some fading going on with some gray here. But in general, the shape of the speculum, this is a really good example here, the common goldeneye versus the speculum length here for a shoveler or even a green-winged teal is a lot shorter. So if you are hunting, if you're a hunter, if you're a beginner hunter or an experienced hunter, try and see if you can identify your speculums before or after you harvest. It's a great exercise. It's a wonderful thing to see. That speculum is often the most colorful part of the waterfowl. So it's just one little tidbit we wanted to throw in. I am absolutely not a professional in speculum color identification unless I can look at the speculum and the entire wing with the animal not moving. It's not my strong point, but for a lot of others, it is their strong point and they swear by it. So this might be a technique or strategy you might want to take up. I'm going to be chatting with you a little bit about geese. With ducks, the males are called drakes and hens, or sorry, drakes, and then the females are called hens. For geese, the males are ganders and the females are geese or a goose. So just like how Logan went through some of his species, I'll be doing some descriptive words with you and see if you can identify what these geese are. So gander and goose in flight, you see here, they have a black head and neck, also called a stocking, all the way to the top of the abdomen here. They have a white chin strap, which is pretty prominent. Their pale breast and back is also very prominent. And they have light undertail coverts. And that's what this arrow is pointing to here. Here's a little baby too to check out. As far as their pattern while in flight, their flocks travel along long strings, sometimes V's, honking very loudly. They can weigh also between 5.5 and 14 pounds. So I do see that, yeah, this is a Canada goose. Congratulations, good job. Here's somewhat of a look-alike. In flight, this goose has a black head and neck, also called a stocking, a very prominent white chin strap in the shape of a V, and they have light tan to brown chest feathers that sort of blend in with the rest of their feathers or the rest of their plumage. They have a white undertail pointed out here. They have a shorter neck and bill, and they're a whole lot smaller. They only weigh 4 to 5 pounds. I do see a lot of people, or quite a few people in the chat. Good job. This is a cackling goose. And ultimate test, which one is a Canada and which one is a cackling? I'll give you a few moments in the chat. Yes, the cackling is smaller if you were paying attention to the weight differences in the description. The cackling geese are quite a bit smaller. Once in a while, if you're a beginner birder, it's hard to tell the difference unless they're right next to each other. But good job. All right, these geese have a more so white body with black primaries. And you'll see right here, the black primaries poking out back here. The primaries are the very edge of their wing. The head is often rust stained near the bill, most of the time anyway. They have pink feet. The bill is pink with a dark horizontal line where the two meet together. There's also something called a dark morph or a blue goose, which these blue arrows are pointing out. And they have a white head and throat. The rest of their body is dark with gray. Variants can have any kind of variation between light bellies, speckling, combinations of the two, dark feet and bill, but also the juveniles have a dark feet and bill. All right, yeah. This is the snow goose, good job. This is one of my very favorites. I think they're so fascinating. This bird is very stocky, mostly brown. They have variable black barring on their belly with white undertail. Their white patch of feathers just above the bright pinkish orange-ish bill. Very descriptive there. And they have bright orange legs. The juveniles right here in the middle, the center picture here, they have an orange bill and feet, and they also lack the black barring on the belly. They also lack the white patch of feathers around the base of the bill. So I really only saw one person get this one right. This is called a speckle belly. This is one of my favorites. Also, oh, I'm sorry, Lavon, you also got it right. Also called the greater white-fronted goose. Here's another very beautiful I agree with you, Darla. The barring on the belly is very beautiful and very unique. I think that's why I like them so much. They're very cool looking. So this cob and pen, that's the male and female, is almost completely white feathered with heavy set bodies. They have very long necks, short, dark legs, and dark eyes that sort of pinpoint with a little bit of attachment to the dark bill. The bill slopes gently away from the head. They can have a rust-stained breast, depending, and they have a dark bill with yellow at base. This is the Buick's or Eurasian form has that extensive yellow at the base of the bill. This is a tundra swan. Yes, good job, everybody. All right, another one of my favorites. I actually used to have a mount of one of these in my office. It's no longer there. It is now in a different location for more people to see, which is very cool. But I really loved having him in my office with me. The male and female in this particular species is a roan and mare. They are, I see in the chat that you've all got it correct so far. They are long-legged, long-necked, gray-bodied, often rust-stained. They have long, dark legs and a bright red crown, males and females. They have a white cheek patch and a gray or dark bill. Yep, Carson Valley. We also have them here in the southern region. This is a sandhill crane. Good job. All right, that was all for the species specific. Everyone did a wonderful job. I really wanted to point out that Kathy says, go to Lodi and see them. Yeah, I haven't actually been there. So I really wanted to say thank you for all of you who participated in the chat when going through some of the species naming. So great job, everybody. And Logan, thank you. He really covered a lot of species. I'm going to, or we rather, we're going to glance into the Q&A box just to make sure that we were able to answer all your questions. It looks like we were. Amanda, also thank you for pounding away at the keyboard, answering all those questions. Thank you so much. Oh, one just popped up. Best places to view waterfowl in Northern Nevada. I actually can't speak on that, Karen. The only thing I can say is to check out where you might have some permanent bodies of water. Those might be some key stopover sites along the migration pathway. But if Logan wants to pop in and answer.
On the river, there's a lot of ducks on there. In Fallon, there's the Stillwater National Wildlife Refuge, which has a ton of ducks, and there's a auto tour that you could drive on and see a lot of ducks, and there's a place to have a little picnic, and there's blinds to go and sit into to take pictures of ducks. That's a great place to go, and there's a bunch of lookouts too onto the actual refuge. And
yeah,
then
thank you.
There's also another question that didn't get answered of what guidebook the map came from. That was like the third or fourth slide.
Oh, that it was specifically taken from, it was an online guidebook for beginning birders. It's from the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. The website is allaboutbirds.org. You may not be able to find that particular picture, but they do have very similar pictures like that, especially for beginner birders. I do want to point out too that in the chat, a lot of people are helping to answer questions, so thank you. And for those of you who are in the southern region where I'm at, I do recommend going to the Henderson Bird Viewing Preserve. It's beautiful, it's free. It's a whole different bunch of varied habitat, so you're likely to see a whole bunch of different species as well. You can also go to any of the permanent waters that we have, like urban ponds like Sunset Park, or Man, I'm blanking on all of the urban ponds that we have. But there's a few in Boulder City. There's a few in North Las Vegas. There's quite a few in the middle of Las Vegas, quite a few in Henderson, even along the washes like Las Vegas Wash. Absolutely. Let's see, I'm looking at some of the other questions. Another question was, can you share the slides of the speculums? No, I can't, only because the person that shared those pictures with me asked that I don't send out the file itself. But this presentation is being recorded and it will be available on YouTube in a week or so, depending on how quickly we can get it posted. And what's nice about that is you can watch it again anytime you want, hit pause, and then that way you have that right with you. Okay, no more questions. So a quick review what we covered today. We covered a lot. We covered the Pacific Flyway, how cool it is, some identification features, what to look for, and also some basic bird ID. We covered ducks, geese, and that other category, which includes a lot. A few reminders, use your resources. Like I said, this is being recorded. Feel free to check in on it on YouTube anytime. You know, you will be able to hit pause so you can have access to those resources. We went over a lot. Know your local laws and regulations. If you are going to go birding, if you are going to go hunting, this is your responsibility. You know, we don't want you trespassing. We don't want you breaking any laws. We don't want you getting any fines or being arrested at the very most. So just check, see where you're going, check online, do your research before you go. There is something called Operation Game Thief, which helps people, you know, us, you, me, all of us together, stop poaching. It's an anonymous number that you can call. I'm actually going to put it in the chat because I know that it's a little small, but it's also viewable online, and it's a direct number to our game wardens, and it is anonymous as well. And then last but not least, we do have this very cool new thing called Tip 41. It is a free app that allows NDOW and the public to interact with each other and the community. And there's alerts happening back and forth and anonymous tips that we can give out too. So be sure to check out Tip 411. I don't know if I said it wrong earlier, but it is Tip 411. And this is the almost the last slide, sent to the last slide. So thank you again for tuning in this evening. Thank you for participating in the chat. We really like to have that conversation with everybody. And I am seeing some thank yous in the chat, but don't go yet. We are always looking for, thanks, Caitlin. It was really cool to have you here. We're always looking for ways to improve our programming. You know, when we started all of these online webinars, we were really looking for excellent feedback from all of the attendees, and we're still looking for that. You know, we're always looking to improve all the programming that we do. So right when we say goodbye this evening, there's a survey that will pop up. Please take it. It's only just maybe a couple minutes. It will help us improve programs like this for future attendees. And also join us for more programs like this. This program was part of the Beginner Birder series. A few of the other series that will be coming up are Raptor ID, Owl ID. We have already done a Birding Basics toolkit, which was super fun, but it is available on YouTube if you wanted to check that out. And hopefully we will be seeing you for more like this. If you are going to go outside, embrace the outdoors and practice #responsible recreation. You know, being outside and being in nature is one of the healthiest things we can do, but we also want you to do it safely and responsibly. And I also want to say a big thank you from me. A thank you to you for all attending, and a big thank you to Logan for helping. Thank you so much, Logan. And a thank you to Amanda for answering all your big questions. So thank you so, so much. We really appreciate it. Looks like there are no more questions for us to answer. So we will see you next time and have a wonderful evening. Bye, everybody.